welcome. This is the Goffstown Capital Improvement Committee meeting of, what is it, our third meeting? And eventually we'll figure out how to do this. We're going to be working on the school budget today. I want to welcome everybody. First, I have to read you the right to know statement that I've lost, but I will make it up.
Jim, do you want me to read it?
The governor's emergency orders because of the coronavirus pandemic, that we're using the WebEx platform for electronic meetings. This allows, under the governor's orders, we can have public meetings under RSA 91A, the New Hampshire Right to Know law, using this method of communication and still be considered present at the meeting. The public, however, can listen in, because this is a meeting, not a hearing. They cannot participate. People who may listen. Danielle, why don't you give the public the number that it can call to listen?
If you'd like to call into the meeting, the telephone number is 603-766-JOIN. Numerically, that is 603-766-5646. And the meeting code is 785645. Jim, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm trying not to mute. I'm trying to mute it when I'm not talking, and then I forget push the wrong button. Tell the public the number to call if there's an interruption in the communication, if we can't hear you.
Yep. If you have any technical access problems, the phone number is 603-660-5000.
Thank you. I think the chair of the committee is disqualified from using that number if he's having trouble on a permanent basis. But, I'd like the members of the committee to identify themselves. Since I have you in a grid, I'll start with Jeff, who's in the top right corner. Please tell us your name and if you're on another committee representing it, what committee that is. Jeff?
Jeff Opperman, representing the Budget Committee.
Okay. Gail?
Gail Lebrecht, community member at large and also recording secretary.
Kelly?
Kelly Boyer, Select Board Rep.
Ellen?
Ellen Markowitz, School Board.
Okay, and let's do the staff members and then the presenters. Danielle, can you introduce yourself?
Danielle Basora, and I'm the Assistant Town Administrator and Finance Director.
Joanne?
Joanne Duffy, Planning and Economic Development Director.
Okay, who have I missed from the staff? Already? Okay, and who's going to be presenting today? Scott, why don't you introduce your crowd?
Sure. My name is Scott Gross. I'm the Business Administrator for SAU 19. And with me this evening is Randy Loring. Randy is our Facilities Director. So Randy, if you can introduce yourself.
Randy Loring, the Facilities Director for Goffstown and New Boston Schools.
And we're also joined by Stephen Bourget, and Stephen is our IT Director.
Hi, I'm Steve Bourget. I'm the Tech Director with Goffstown and New Boston Schools as well.
Okay. You did not do this last year, I don't think. Randy, did you do it? Randy, were you here last year for the CIP?
Yes, I was.
Oh, okay. I'm Jim Raymond. I'm the chair. Have I missed anybody? Because I can't see other people. Okay. Thank you. Let us let's do some routine business first, and then we'll get to the presentation. You've all had the minutes sent to you. You've had an opportunity to read them. I'm going to assume you have. I'd accept a motion to accept them as presented, and we'll waive the reading thereof.
Jim, I'll make the motion, but with 2 corrections.
Okay,
The approval of those minutes, the approval of the minutes of June 4th should reflect a vote of 4-0 to 0, not 4-0 to 1. And also, the motion to adjourn has Jeff O'Brien named twice, so 1 should be deleted.
he has more than usual impact on us.
Yeah.
Are there any other changes?
Ellen seconds.
Okay, Ellen will second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, raise your hand. I guess we can all see each other, so if you raise your hand, you can take that as a vote. Kelly,
We have to
are
do
you?
a roll call vote for the electronic.
Right.
I'm sorry.
How'd you get over the old ways? Jeff, how do you vote?
Aye. Yes.
Kel?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
And the chair votes aye. I forgot to tell you or ask you, under the Right to Know Law 91A, there's a provision in it that you have to identify if there is anybody in the room with you. So if there's anybody, for when we're not counting people who may walk through occasionally, like my spouse, but actually to a point where they can participate in the meeting. Does anybody have anybody of that nature?
No.
And I think as amended, you have to disclose whether you're wearing shorts and are barefoot. But we'll hold that till next meeting. Okay. Danielle, is there anything else that we need to address before we move into the presentation?
Yes. I'd like to just take a moment to note to the committee members that the matrix was mailed out to you and it was sent electronically as well. So we're going to be working off of that new matrix today. And the school's projects begin on page 7 out of 10 of that matrix. Now, the pages in the book that go along with the individual projects are printed in alphabetical order, first school and then by project. So if you're trying to follow along with the pages, I can assist with that, but the matrix will be the way the presentation will be ordered.
So what we'll do, thank you, is we'll have the school representatives make the presentation for, well, they can do it in each order, but it's in the order they choose, but if you do it in the order of the sheet, it's easier on us. After each sheet, we can ask questions. We'll let them make the presentation and then have a time for questions, further explanation. For the benefit of the many people listening to this from the public, we review the presentations. We do not act on them tonight. Rather, we wait till we're done all the presentations, and then we see if there are any questions or any reasons to bring back any of the representatives, many of the boards, and then we'll discuss it as a group. Some days that Danielle will tell us getting and decide then. So there's no action taken tonight. It's really a presentation and questions. If nobody has any questions, I'll turn the presentation over to Scott to lead us through with Randy and Stephen's assistance. Scott?
Mr. Chair, I believe Scott is trying to reconnect. He lost connection there a moment ago.
Randy, do you want to take the lead?
I will jump in until Scott comes, because I really don't think Scott was looking to me to start this off anyway, so we can move on without Scott until he gets on board. On my sheet, on page 7, the top one is the Bartlett Elementary School, and we're looking at the heating controls here, and we have put in a budgetary line of $80,000 for heating upgrades to the systems. That Bartlett school, it still is operating on a large portion of the building with pneumatic controls, which is basically obviously run by air instead of a DDC system, which we can control electronically. Yes, Ellen?
The matrix says
2020 is what I'm showing.
The worksheet says 2022. Or am I in the wrong place?
On page 7? It's listed under 2020 on mine.
I am in the wrong
Daniel,
place. Keep going, ignore me.
this is, because Randy might be starting at our first sheet is.
Okay, that's my bad.
Okay. So like I said, we're looking to, again, to take out the pneumatic controls that's still in a large portions of the older sections of the building, which was put in 1920, to get them upgraded to electronic controls so that we can control them remotely via a computer. In that same building as well, window replacement that we have on 2022 at 85,000 to replace original windows again and part of the 1920 section of the building and through the gymnasium as well. That single pane windows, not very inefficient windows, to get them changed out to a higher performance window for energy savings. Looking at bathroom replacements as well for the boys in the girls' room on the upper level, the main level coming in from the front of the building to the left at 1950s fixtures that are in there to get them out and updated to the plumbing that's in there. And sometimes we were having issues with the venting that's in that section to put proper venting in that section as well when we're renovating that space. We're looking at roof replacement on Section A of the original building at $50,000. It's an asphalt and it's a mopped tarred roof. Looking to put in a fully adhered. You know what that was? Is a fully adhered rubber roof system there. Roof replacement on Section B of Bartlett as well. And that's a rolled asphalt section of the building. And when you're looking at it, the best way to explain it is it looks like if you're looking at the back of a crocodile, it's very cracked and sparse. We do go in and we're maintaining it. We haven't had any real issues in the building because we do go up and have our roofing contractor, North Point Roofing, go up for routine preventive maintenance just to make sure that the roof is holding integrity and sealed and we're not getting leaks, but it's at its life expectancy and looking to get that section replaced before we have any larger issues. And looking at Section C, and again, it's the same as in Section B, it's a rolled asphalt roofing, again, in the same condition and flashing issues on that section as well, just to get an updated, fully adhered rubber membrane roof on those sections.
Randy,
And then
can you tell us what A, B, and C means as we're looking at the building?
When you're looking at the building, if you're looking to the left, it's when it breaks from one section to another, that we just so when we're looking at it, it's just sections of the building, which is the original section, which is when you're looking at the building to the left, like going down the hall and any other additions that come on is kind of at the breaks of hallways or sections of the building that we just label them A, B, and C just to break out. So that way it's better to identify the sections, and I'm sorry that I don't have a map to show you how it's laid out. But it's just areas of the building or roof lines, so that way we can identify where issues that we're having, so we can concentrate on where the problem areas are.
Let's stop there before we go to the next. Does anybody have any questions on Ellen?
Yeah, it's the 80,000 heating controls, that's already done?
No,
It's not done.
no, ma'am.
Anticipating being done 2020?
Well, we say right now it would be 2021 because we're coming out of this fiscal year and that we're already out of 2020.
Okay, am I reading this wrong? It says it's adopted budget 2020.
Yeah, Ellen, I have the same question. I think it should just be moved over into 2021 proposed CIP. Is that correct?
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct.
So currently on the matrix, what she's talking about
Yes.
is in 2020. Okay.
Yeah.
So move, okay, thank you.
So is the other heating controls moving over as well to 2021?
Yes.
Okay. So maybe can we go through what the total amount for proposed 2021 CIP? Because I currently only see 50,000 total proposed for district-wide 2021. Is that correct?
You're asking us for the whole school district
Correct, yeah.
project. You want to take it chronologically, or can we still take it by building and then summarize to show what's happening in each year? It's
Yeah.
broken down matrix by facility, and then spread out over the years. So it's really how you want to present it. You want to present it on an annual basis each year, what's going on in the district as a whole, or can we continue for each facility, and then we can summarize when we come back and show you in each year? I think, Randy, you were prepared to go through it by building, but Kelly, you want to see what is.
I'm just asking, so on the matrix that was emailed to us, it has subtotal district-wide for 2021 proposed CIP, 50,000. I'm on page 10, line 321.
Yep.
And already we have two $80,000 projects that have been moved into proposed in 2021. Just wondering how much is the full year of 2021 in total. Does that make sense?
Ron and Randy, can you?
210,000.
Yeah,
Yeah, Selin, I'm just asking, is that the total, is what I was getting at? Just those two projects being moved? Or is it more?
That's what it looks like.
it's my understanding, Kelly, that those are two projects that are being moved. I have to apologize. When we reviewed this, I thought Randy had stated that those two projects were done. So my apologies there. So that being the case, you're going to see one for Maple and for Bartlett. So both
Yep.
of those are going to have to get moved into the 2021 realm versus being in the adopted budget because they haven't been completed. So my apologies
Okay.
there.
Okay, there's also a $35,000 one, so the total
Yeah.
needs to go up by another 35,000.
So the
And-
total proposed 2021 CIP is $210,000.
It's gonna be more than that.
What else is there?
I think it would be, this is just me speaking here, Jim, you're the chair, but if we can, I don't mind responding to your question, Kelly, but in the meantime, I'll bring up a spreadsheet. I'll make those adjustments, but as you go through this, I can then give, in like 5 or 10 minutes, I'll give you updated numbers, if that's fair.
Sure, yeah, that's fine.
Let's go, let's continue with the spreadsheet, and then we can pull it back together at the end on moving and change the numbers. That's okay with the committee.
Whatever's easiest. I'm just looking at it electronically and was trying to make notes as I was going. So that's totally fine. Thank you.
That's a good question. Okay, so Randy, Scott, you want to roll in?
So the next piece, I'm going to turn that over to Steve, and this is the way that we've done this year is we'll go through each school and we'll be doing, for the most part, it seems to track that we do facilities at each school. Then we've added the IT related components. So I'm going to turn it over to IT Director Steve Bourget, and he can go over the computer lab and the laptop cart replacements.
All right. So at Bartlett, we have a couple of projects that are slated out there. The first one is the library computer lab. The library consists of a bunch of Apple iMacs that were purchased in 2011 that we're looking to replace in 2023, which will put them out to be about 12 years old, which is well beyond the expected, the recommended life cycle of those machines. And then the other set that we have on there are some laptop cart replacements starting in 2026. We purchased a large collection of Chromebooks this year for remote learning. They have an end of life date by Google for support of June 30th, 2026. Hence the reason for the 2026 replacement cycle.
You want to flip back then and continue letting Randy go with the,
Yeah, yep. So then Randy, if you would mind, we know that the heating controls at Maple are the same story as Bartlett. So then we can just kind of proceed through with the next item, which is the replacement of exterior doors, which has been on a cycle for us.
2024. And this, again, it's to finish the last 5 remaining doors that we have not replaced at this particular school. Looking at bathroom renovations, it's kind of in the same boat as at Bartlett, where we have male and female bathrooms on the main floor that are very antiqued, old fixtures to go in and renovate, put in updated fixtures for efficiency on water, and also the cleaning of the bathrooms. They're the old, if you go in, the old urinals that go from mid-wall all the way to the floor, and the way that the toilets are mounted in there as well. We would be looking to change, again, updating to the current plumbing codes and taking and putting on wall-mounted fixtures just for being able to clean the restrooms more efficiently. The replacement windows here as well, moving out to 2024 and 25. The original windows, looking at it over a 2-year project, which is if you're standing in the front of Maple Ave, and it's the section that is to the left, where you basically walk in and you're greeted by the receptionist of the building, and that's the main part of the section that we're looking at, front and back, to replace windows in that section. Roof replacement A. A is EDPM rubber roof in poor condition, which is again on the main section of the building. When you're standing in the front, it's to the left side of the building. The sections that are there, A, C, E, and F. And again, it's at the break of each hallway. Just again, is to break the building up so that we were able to, instead of having to put in breaks through the roof, is just taking them where they transition from one section of a hall to another. And looking at the replacement there as well. But we do go in again with the folks from North Point Roofing to do preventive maintenance. We haven't had any big issues there. We did have some issues over the last few years with roof drains, which we've corrected. And again, it's just time to start looking at, in the upcoming years, in the next 3 or 4 years, to taking a look at planning on those replacements. And again, we get back into the laptop carts, and if I had no questions, I will turn that over to Steve.
before you do that,
Yes.
Randy, in the memo column on the roof, it has a life expectancy 1 to 3 years, which is, but you're proposing these, well, I guess it's
3 years out.
That's
3 years
4
out,
years.
so you're within that
Well, yeah.
life,
Yes.
but not by much.
Right. And like I said, we are doing the preventive maintenance and just making sure that we're not running into any big issues. So we check them yearly and make any needed repairs we have to get us to, another 3 years out of these roofs.
Steven?
Technology-wise, it's the same as Bartlett. We're looking to replace the laptops that were purchased this year for remote learning that, again, have a life expectancy ending, according to Google for the Chromebooks, of June 30th, 2026. So we're looking at replacing them in 2026 when they fall out of support.
That it on Maple Ave? I mean,
I see Ellen.
Steven's department? Ellen?
Yeah, back to the roofs. 2020 to 2024 is 4 years, and they have a 1 to 3 year, but some of these are going out to 2025 and 2026. I'm confused as to why we are hoping to get that much more out of them.
And again, Ellen, I believe it can be achieved by the constant preventive maintenance that we're doing on them to get us there, instead of trying to do them all in one shot and it would hundreds of thousands of dollars to try and do them all in one shot. We're just trying to separate them to be more cost efficient, with dollars as far as getting this done. And I would say that if any one of the particular areas for some reason highlighted over another, if F for some reason came up and it was slated to have C, that I would ask that we just switch from one section of the roof to the other as the need should arise.
Okay.
Can I ask a question, Jim?
Question that Ellen might be leading into, and this ties into what Kelly was talking about a little bit, is if you look on page 10, we'll get to this, your totals, they're backloaded. And one of the suggestions we had made last year is try to spread out over time, so we don't, if there are projects, if it looks like there's going to be a lot of projects here, we want to even out the tax burden, not load other things that, but move it around. And one of the options we talked about actually is moving some repairs forward in time to avoid those spikes. The contrary urge, I guess, if you're an elected official, is to avoid tax increases at all. So I think things end up getting put off. But that's something we can come back to, Scott. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, or will when we get the total.
If you want me to address it now, I can, or I can wait till later.
Why don't you wait till later when we have the whole package? But it is a question I think we'll be asking again.
Okay. There was a rationale behind that.
Okay, Joanne?
I just remember from last year when they did show, you know, I don't remember what years they were in, but they showed all of the maintenance, windows, roofs, etc. for the elementary schools. There was a discussion about whether or not those schools would be continuing or something may change. And so I think that the recommendation at that time was to kind of push things out until the town really knew what the disposition of those buildings would be.
And thank you, Joanne. That was exactly what I was going to say. So I might as well jump in now. So there were a couple of factors, that being one of them. So we had a building committee. So for those on the CIP committee, there's a building committee that is on a hiatus right now due to the COVID-19 situation that we're in. But that building committee was taking a look at our long-term facility needs. And as you know, we did bump up the modular classroom at the kindergarten. We moved that up, and that we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But Joanne's precisely right. We were thinking to ourselves, would it make sense to do all these work on these buildings in light of the fact that, you know, we might, you know, not use one of the buildings or not use multiple buildings or convert buildings, et cetera. So it was, you know, we felt that it would be best just to kind of put that off. Then the other monkey wrench that kind of got thrown into it was this pandemic and the changing circumstances. So when we compiled this, you know, Steve and myself and Randy and the superintendent, school board, you know, we were kind of cognizant of the fact that we need to kind of be kind of lean going into the, you know, at least this year and next year in terms of our budget proposals. While we are fortunate to have the support of a capital reserve fund, you know, we haven't robustly funded it, and we're going to talk a little bit about that later, as I know Ellen has wonderful ideas on that in the next couple of years. But we were very shy about putting a lot of monies in 21 and 22 for the economic reality that we're in, and also the uncertainty of what we're doing with our buildings. So we did punt, Jim, on those things and put them in the out years. So I apologize for that, but that was the rationale.
Okay, I have to laugh when Scott uses the word shy. He is not, but I think his reasoning is probably good. Okay, well, let's keep going then, and then if we have to bring that back up at the end, we can look at how it all fits together. But thank you for that. That's those points. Scott, I guess, or Randy, I guess it goes back to you, doesn't it?
I think we're at Glen Lake.
Glen Lake, it does, yes. I know, Steve, I'm not sure if we missed the laptops at Maple. I don't know if we hit on that or.
No, we did.
I just want to make sure we didn't miss anything. That's all.
No, we got those.
We did? Okay. And again, now that we're moving into Glen Lake, we're looking at just roof repairs to maintain the roofing system that is on the building currently. That is an asphalt shingled roof. that is on the roof. It's in fairly decent condition right now, and it's again just keeping up with repairs, and we're looking at, and that's out at 2024, just to look at and maintaining the systems that are there, making sure that we get the flashings and we're not having any shingle issues on that roof system. And again, that is one of the buildings we still maintain it. We look at it yearly, and we're just anticipating that in a few years out we may have to redo some flashings on that building. Door frames at the Glen Lake School, more so around the back side of the building, where the winter treatment salts for the building as it sat up against those doors. The bottom of the doors are rusted. We have patched and repaired some of them, and with the doors, but the frames are starting to rust at the bottom of the doors, and we have scraped and painted them, but it's a continuous problem that we have every year there, just to remain the exits out of the back of the building, because they are egress for each of the classrooms, that those door frames are slated to going to need some attention here in the near future. The door slabs are fine, but it's the frames that we're having issues with. And then it leads us to the modular unit right now. Just an update there. We have, I don't know if any of you all have been by the building to see the state where it's at, but it's the topography of that space has changed drastically with the landscaping that we have done to the back and side of the buildings, changing the banking pitch in the back. We have a foundation with a floor in the back. We have the electrical components that are in place. Today we late in the afternoon had got two of the. So we have 4 that were delivered last week, 2 that were delivered today, 1 that's going to be delivered tomorrow, for a total of 7. And just waiting for the date of a crane to come in and lift them and start setting them in place. Hopefully that will be next week. So that project is moving along nicely. And they've done extensive paving, where they have torn up in sections of the building and have put down a binder unit, and waiting until after we have the modulars installed and in place to do the final top coating in that parking lot around with that where the site work was done for electrical and the plumbing and the water there and the sewer.
Does anybody have any questions on Glen Lake? Go on to this page.
So Jim, if we are heading over to the Mountain View Middle School, I just wanted to try to, if I could, Randy can chime in on a couple of them, so can Steve, but just to try to go over some of the things that we're doing, right now, or that we've been able to complete. So with regard to the cistern tank for the fire pump, that's something that we're looking to do this school year. Randy, because of all the things that are going on, we kind of know what the issue is with that cistern tank, and Randy will jump to that in just a second. But with everything that's going on with school reopening, our 2 projects, both in Goffstown, New Boston, this one has kind of taken a back burner, but we do plan on dealing with this one and probably using our capital reserve fund to address this one. And then Steve can also speak to our the switches and increasing Wi-Fi density. You'll see that there's a common theme. When we had to switch over to remote learning, we had to significantly upgrade our computer systems. They were just not robust enough, and in some cases new enough to deal with the remote learning needs. So we had to, on the fly, replace a lot of servers, and you'll see that server virtualization down the road. So I don't want to steal Randy's thunder or Steve's, but I just wanted to tee that up for them. So Randy, if you want to talk about the cistern tank and what we need to do there.
At the cistern tank at Mountain View Middle School, so that you, in case you don't know where it is, as you pull into the Mountain View Middle School entranceway, as the road splits to the right and to the left, if you go to the left along by the baseball field, as you're going around the corner on the right-hand side, there is a brick building that is there. Well, inside of that building is where the fire pump for the sprinkler system sits. And on the back side of that is a 45,000 gallon tank that holds water to support the sprinkler system if in fact it should go off in the building. The connection from the cistern tank to the fire pump, there's a lack of it. It's a seal link that it has a number of bolts around it, and it's a rubber seal, and that seal is leaking. It's not leaking significantly, but it is a little damp there. With the folks have gone in with the sprinkler company, and they have tightened the seal. And I guess as much as they feel is that they can without creating any more damage to the seal. Like I said, it's not a big leak. It's just enough that it just keeps it damp around that seal. The one thing that has kind of worked into our favor a bit is these tanks are as part of a mandate to be inspected every 5 years. And I've been here, I'm going into my 5th year, so I know it's time to have that done. So we're looking at when we replace this seal is to have the tank, and it will be emptied. We're going to put some, it's actually 3 container units, and then have and I've reached out to the fire department and asked them for help to pump the tanks out and put them into the storage tanks while this work is being done. And then when it's completed, they'll be pumped back into the cistern tank. But when we're doing that repair, the tanks will be inspected for integrity of the interior walls. And at that time, I think we're going to be looking at having a rubberized coating sprayed on the inside of the tank just to help with the integrity of the tank. So right now I'm working with the folks that we use for sprinkler repairs and inspections, working with them now to look at what is the detailed scope of this work. So we're working with those folks currently to get this job taken care of. And if I could skip down the safety locks in this building, that's a project that has been completed. The egress in room 119, which is the fax room at the middle school. It's a very large room. It's over 1,000 square feet, which means it has to have 2 proper egresses. Yes,
Can I ask a question?
sure.
So what you're reading right now is under 2020 adopted budget, which has already been approved. So I don't think, I mean, this is just my opinion, but I don't think this committee needs to hear that again unless there's something that wasn't
Done.
planned for 2020 and it was being continued to 2020.
Will it happen in this year, I guess is the question, Randy? And if
Yeah, I think the one that the only one there that I think is questionable is the cistern tank.
Yes.
It's something that we might have to push to 2021, but then again, it might have a negligible impact on your CIP because we might just use the funding source of the CRF to pay for it. So I just don't think it's going to have a major impact for you folks for 2021.
Okay. Well, I think Joanne brings up a good point in the benefit of brevity. Unless there's a project that's been approved and listed for this year that may spill over or create some wrinkle or affects the future ones, we probably don't need to review them. However, if it is likely not to be done because of all the reasons Randy talked about, or it impacts other projects that are in the line, you could review those, but we don't need to review all the already approved ones. You have a question? Ellen?
Yeah. Scott, didn't we approve funds from CRF for those stairs at the high school?
Yeah, but that's coming later. You'll see that.
Well, that's fine, but in the CRF, I don't think we have 85,000 in it.
You currently have $98,000, but
Yeah,
now we're also
taking out
making,
the stairs.
but we're also making a $200,000 deposit this week because the voters approved that. So you're going to have about $250,000 in your capital reserve fund in about 2 weeks.
Okay.
Hey, Randy, why don't you keep rolling then? Somebody has a question.
Is there another question? I'm sorry, I was looking down. Oh, that takes us to the basically the locker room floors that we have out for 2023. The current epoxy floors that are in the shower areas, both in the girls' and the boys' locker room, is in need of refinishing, and it's very hard to keep it clean. That epoxy floor is actually peeling up. So we'd like to go in and make that a more inviting space to go in and basically for the kids to use there after they're done with their, whether it be sports or in the gym, to go in and use those facilities. It doesn't look very nice, it's clean, but it doesn't look nice, and to spruce it up and to make it look better. And again, to maintain the cleaning. And looking at, looking at here too, on line 271, fire alarm panel at $40,000 to replace to a non-proprietary panel, and also an addressable panel. So when issues go off, it's just not saying a zone, it's calling out a specific space in the building where, whether it be a smoke detector or heat or whatever the issue is, that may send the system into trouble. Looking
Randy,
at
what
the
do you mean by the term non-proprietary?
right now is, like, for example, a Simplex or Honeywell. It's a system that is not proprietary to any one particular company. It's kind of like a backnet system, like we look for our DDC systems as well, that any fire alarm company would be able to go in and service. You don't have to specifically go to a Gamewell Simplex. If that's the system, then you are tied to them. You're not able to put in, if something should fail, you have to go to those folks to bring them in to program things into the system. With a non-proprietary system, it's open, and then any vendor would be able to go in and add and program into the system components of the fire alarm system.
Thank you. Okay, keep going, you're on a roll.
Okay, and then we're looking at window replacement in the Hilltop, and those are those blocked glass units that are in there to take them out and then look to decrease the square footage of the space of those, and putting in an updated window system in there for better lighting and maintaining of that space. Looking at pushing out in 2024, looking at the septic system replacement. Right now, but again, that was just a shot at it. We haven't actually gone out to see what that would actually cost to replace. We haven't done that at this point right now.
Well, in fairness to you, Randy, you have tried repeatedly with a couple of our vendors, and we have not gotten reply. So I don't want you you don't need to jump on the sword on that one. I know that we have tried a couple of times to get folks to take a look at it. We just have to keep hammering away.
We'll keep trying. And again, looking at the bus cul-de-sac, landscaping redesign there, that we were looking so that the buses would have a spot by the softball field going into the banking, that they would be able to do a pickup or drop off and turn around in that cul-de-sac and go out in the same fashion that they came into the left side coming in, so that they were not integrating or crossing over with pedestrian traffic for kids being dropped off and picked up by the parents on the front side of the building. It is a real can be a real hazard there at times during pickup and drop off times. Widening of the road coming into that building as well, adding a third lane for emergency egress. If anyone has been in that, going into that area during a Pacific drop-off times and the fire alarm goes off, we can't get fire equipment or emergency equipment near the building because of the flow traffic coming in and out of the building.
Randy, can I just interject for 1 second on that? With regard to that road widening, I just wanted to refresh the folks in CIP to let you know that when we did the project over at Glen Lake, we had a substantial amount of materials that were removed from that property. Our plan was to actually truck the materials over to Mountain View Middle School and to really kind of put them there so that we can use them later for that road widening project. When we consulted with our contractor, John Neville Excavating, he said that there was it was going to be problematic for us just to simply dump fill in certain areas. So we actually put the fill at the Norman Road property. But I wanted to let the CIP committee know that we probably have a good $50,000 worth of fill that's sitting on Norman Road right now, that when we do that road widening project, we'll be able to repurpose it, for that. So I just wanted you to know what was going on in that regard.
Thank you, Scott. I did forget about that, to be honest with you.
Ellen?
Yeah, Scott and Randy, are these two items, because they are a traffic and emergency safety issue up at Mountain View, which only has one way in and out, really, that those two items could be moved up instead of put out 5 more years?
You could make that argument, Ellen. I think that would be something for you and the CIP committee to certainly question. One thing that I know that we have tried, although albeit unsuccessfully, the bus cul-de-sac and the road widening, you're right, they do have some safety concerns to them. We applied for safety grant for that project and we were declined, I think, twice now.
Yes.
The folks that give those grants, they don't tend to jump on larger ticket items like that. We've been very successful, and Mr. Bourget here has been able to get, and along with his predecessor Gary Girolman, have been able to secure grants for visitor management systems, locks, you name it. But these bigger ticket items, they haven't been as receptive. But we are hopeful that we might be able to get a grant. But again, looking at all the other things, Ellen, when you look at, like, say, window replacements versus, a cul-de-sac, a bus cul-de-sac, we probably would put the windows before the bus that type of thing. So it's a tricky thing, but we welcome your input.
I'm just thinking that this is the only school that has only one way in and out.
Yeah.
And to me,
I know.
that compounds the issues on the site with the amount of traffic we see up there in the morning and the afternoon. So CIP will have to look at it.
No arguments from us on that one.
No. In the last one that I had, I'm sorry, sir, was there a question?
Go ahead, we can come back to that
Okay.
placement in years when we get to the end. Randy, go ahead.
In the last one I have in this section for me would be there are, I believe there's 7 internal transformers in the building in various spots where electrical distribution is, that's original to the building, that we have our electrical contractor maintain, and he says they're actually running hotter than they should be, so we would want to start to think about replacing these transformers, because if one does go down, sections of the building will be without power until we change those little internal transformers out. So we're looking at getting that on the list to start that process as well in 2023, and then finishing in 2025.
I can't Jeff anymore. So Jeff, if you have a question, just raise your voice instead of your hand until you come back on the screen for us.
And I would say here at this point, as Steve, it comes that if you go back up to where it comes in with the increasing Wi-Fi density and backward just to secondary switches.
Yep. So on the IT side, both the switches and the wireless projects are done. They were partially funded with E-rate dollars and partially funded with district budget. In terms of items that are coming up in the CIP matrix, the first one we have is on line, I think it's 278, the laptop cart replacement. So Mountain View has 8 laptop carts that are currently in service, most of which are hardware that was purchased around 2012. The plan is to put them on some sort of replacement cycle, because 8 years for a laptop is kind of pushing it. And by putting them on a plan, the last wave of them will be replaced in 2020. 4, I think. But the idea is simply to go through and put them on a 4-year replacement cycle because that's the life expectancy of a laptop battery. And a lot of these units, the batteries are not, in newer hardware, are not user replaceable. So we can't service them or get them with a lot of the newer technology. They're built sealed. So that's that piece. The computer lab at Mountain View, we put in at a replacement cycle for 2023 and 2025. Mountain View has traditionally in the past gotten the hand-me-downs from the high school. We are currently working with the Army National Guard. We have a donation lined up to get some 5 or 6 year old computers to replace their lab. But again, those computers are 5 or 6 years old. So we're looking at in 2023 to look at starting to replace the first one of those donated labs. That equipment will be at that point going on 8+ years. We kind of do need to have some relatively modern and supported technology in that building for students. And the last item I have on there is the core switch upgrade, which is out at 2025. Our main infrastructure switches for the buildings was put in around 2014. It has a life expectancy of typically 7 to 10 years. We have found that we can sometimes stretch the equipment a little bit longer, but that's the goal, to replace those to keep up with technology trends 5 years out.
Steve, will you remind us what E-rate is?
So on your tax bill for cable, you have a universal services charge that every customer pays for their cable television. That goes into a fund by the FCC, and school districts can apply for that, those fund dollars, to purchase technology related to internet connectivity or internet access. It's based on the school's free and reduced population. Goffstown receives a 40% reimbursement for any purchase for E-rate. So as we purchase things, and if they're E-rate eligible, the FCC will offset the charge. They will pay 40% of the bill. So what you're seeing on here, I believe, and Scott can correct me, is the balance of the bill with
Yes.
the E-rate portion removed.
No, it's, I think we did the gross, that's what we talked.
All right, we put
We
the
talked the gross
bill.
amount, and then there's an offsetting revenue on the revenue side. That's what Danielle and I did. Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing that I would add to that, Jim, is that, and we've had discussions with the town about this, I know Adam McCune was involved. We don't get E-rates on computers. It's on any equipment related to connectivity. So there are some pieces of hardware that you can get that are E-rate eligible, but computers themselves are not E-rate eligible.
You're usually pretty creative, Scott. I'm surprised you couldn't get those within the definition of connectivity by cutting wires between them or something.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the criteria for E-rate is very strict. So they will cover like wireless connectivity, but they will not cover any devices. So we can do wireless. Or if I buy cable, if I buy switches, those are all eligible. Firewall products are eligible of the purchase of the firewall, but not the subscription, but no physical devices. We've tried.
Oh, thank you. Randy, do we go back to you now?
Okay. Right now, I believe we're at the high school. And as I'm looking at this, and I will apologize as we look at roof A, roof B section, roof C, that I will make it a point to call up where each of these sections are, because in my mind right now, I cannot tell you what roof section A is. There's just so many sections on that building. I don't want to mislead you to tell you a wrong section, but I will have the map for that and forward it to Scott, and he can distribute it to you so that you can see what sections of the building that we are referring to there. And we have done a number of repairs on these sections to get the life expectancy out of them as it's listed here, to maintain these roofs. So again, they're in fair condition right now. We have done a number of repairs to get the extended life out of the roofs at the high school. We're looking at also it is 2025 is looking at the final floor abatement in the 100 wing for rooms 101, 103, 105, and which is down towards the tech wing and then the tech wing hallway as well. Looking at exterior doors, we have 11 doors that are in need of repair, or I should say replacement, at the high school or on the exterior doors. And we're still looking at doing electrostatic painting for lockers in 2025 to extend the life of the lockers that we have. We're looking at as well, that is in here, is the theater expansion. If you recall, 2 years ago when we were doing the drainage project at the high school, that we were actually trying to put in an extension on the theater to a place for them to build sets, have storage so they could have their wardrobe, clothing and things to be stored on site at the high school. Opening up a section of the wall in the back so they could take props that were built in this back section and wheeled into the theater. That was put on hold when we did that drainage project at the high school with the and the removal of the trees that we did there. So we just felt it was prudent due to the cost there to push that out. The single pane windows in the tech wing, again, they're not efficient, and we're looking at 2023. Removing the existing K-wall systems that are in there, which are the opaque. They let light in, but not direct light in, and they're starting to fail. And so looking at slating to get those replaced as well. When we did the drainage project, and it was pointed out that there might be some other drainage issues in this area here, it's particularly where that, I want to say, what is it, that bike obstacle course that's right there, right directly behind the metal shop. When it gets rain, the water pulls up there, and it's really a hazard in the wintertime. If you ever driven around the back of the building after, if we had any kind of rain or melting of snow, that it is a sheet of ice. As soon as you turn the corner by the softball field to turn to go to the back of the school, the water that runs across there it's just hard to control, and to create a ditch or a path to divert the water to the drain that is just to the left side of the area where it's running. There is a culvert that is there to direct the water into that area to stop it from running into the parking lot. We also have here for 2023 is a whole building generator for $230,000 at the high school. There is no generation at the high school currently. And when there is an outage, where we rely on the battery backup to keep it going, hopefully in time to get the power back on. But if the power does go down at the high school and it's down for an extended period of time, we lose a lot of systems because it is all routed through the high school. So that's kind of what I would deem a critical piece for us to look at. And for me, that would wrap up what I have here.
I'm going to answer Ellen's question. Should that be moved up?
Well, we have tried to move it up a number of times with the state when they have grants as it relates to generators, but they're very specific about the ones that get the first priority. And right now it has not been the schools. It's been like, the fire departments, police department, healthcare centers. So as it goes for grants that, we have missed out on a number of the grants just by the definition of how they were written, that we didn't get the priority to get that funding.
Okay, Ellen?
If we could move it up, this would be one that I would look to or encourage to move up if it was able to be moved up.
Okay. Ellen?
Okay, I've got to go back. Where is it? Theater infrastructure. It says here, project replacing the CAST committee. I don't know what CAST stands for. Plan to construct track facility at the high school site. Track as in track and field running?
No.
Okay, what does that mean?
Honestly, Alan, this thing has been on here for a while. CAST was a group of parents
That's what I
who
thought.
were on a committee that developed a plan, as Randy had stated earlier, to increase storage and to renovate the theater. So, this one here, although we have a phenomenal performing arts department, it's something that I think we have put on the back burner, whether it be fair or unfair, but it has been put out into the out years simply because of, you know, the more pressing need to make sure that we're maintaining our existing, you know, kind of assets before we embark on others. The theater, though, is in need of a lot of work. Randy and I last year, when we inspected, we had the rigging inspected. That was all replaced. If you remember, we had to replace some lighting bars, and that theater is in rough shape, and it does need work. But you know, I think that what that might happen is if we have a bigger project, Alan, it might be something that gets lumped into a big project, or perhaps a smaller amount bond or something, because it's something that just needs a lot of attention. But as you can see, it has a relatively large price tag. Conservatively, between those two projects, it's 700,000. I would argue that it's a lot more than that, but I think that would have to get wrapped up into another project, or wrapped into another project, I should say.
And better clarity as to what is being sought for the
Yeah.
inside the theater. Okay, thank you.
Okay, it's a
So,
good question. And my editorial comment is you can put off projects forever, but sometimes they're the gem of the school. You don't want them to go find a way.
Well, the other thing too is that we take for granted, you know, we're in that theater for, say, deliberative sessions, Jim, and you're our moderator, so you know that sometimes things look good in front of the curtain, but behind the curtain, not so much, right?
Yeah.
I wanted, if I could, before Steve talks about some IT, to give you a little bit of an update. Well, there's two things I wanted to backtrack on. One, with Selectwoman Boyer here, I wanted to thank the Select Board. We have been having a lot of discussions about the emergency generator, moving our shelter. Danielle knows this, so does Derek. We've been talking about this for the last year or so, about moving the emergency shelter to Goffstown High School, having an emergency generator there. So we're partnering with the town on this one. If we can get a grant and move this thing up, we will. But you know, and if that's something, as Randy had stated, if this committee sees fit to move that up a year or two, you'll have absolutely no objections from the administration or probably the school board on this one, and even the select board, because we do recognize that the high school is an incredibly important asset for our community, and it's just a very important building for emergency management purposes. As we go to the laptop carts, this is one that is in a really, for the high school, it's in a little bit of a fluid state, and I want to explain why. So when we went to remote, or shall we say connected learning, we had an issue with devices for our students. And our goal is to try to put a device in every kid's hands, or at least every other kid's hands, as best we can. What we found out, though, is we purchased Chromebooks during COVID-19 to try to get as many of those out to kids who did not have a device. We also run into situations where you might have a family that has 2, 3, 4 kids, but only 1 or 2 computers. One parent is on that doing work. Another kid is doing homework, and it just didn't always work. So what our plan is, we had received a grant through the CARES Act, ESSER funds, and it was a $276,000 grant from the federal government. And what our plan is right now is to use at least half of that grant on technology. So right now we placed an order to replace some laptops and that are in our existing building. So our laptops that are in some carts at the high school right now, our plan is to repurpose those older end-of-life laptops, give those laptops to students who might need them in a connected learning environment so they have the ability to have a computer, and then replace those laptops with new ones. So what we've done now is we're putting in an order for about, I would say, about a year and a half on this CIP, Steve. Is it fair enough to say it's maybe a year, or probably 2 years worth of laptops we could probably eliminate on this plan?
Yeah.
Would that be fair?
I would say probably between here and Mountain View, you would take off at least probably a year off of Mountain View and probably 2 years off the high school. With,
So
with what we have with the current plan, because we've got 4, 5, 6. We've got 7 carts worth that are being ordered right now. About 175 laptops out of that grant.
So I wanted you to know that. And again, it's not like when we develop this plan, all of these grants are coming, as Danielle knows, we're seeing approvals and grants on different things, and also what the interpretation of what you could use the grant for. So initially, we weren't sure if we could use the grant for technology or for what different purposes. So we decided that we're going to spend at least half of that amount on technology and maybe more. We'll see how the year goes through, but we do have that $276,000 from the federal government. So whether it probably is something that we would probably communicate through Ellen, maybe to say, hey, you might want to peel off, like I said, 1 or 2 years at Mountain View and take away, 2 years at the high school of these laptop cart replacements because we're doing it now.
Ellen, you have a question?
Well, I think Scott almost answered it. So at Mountain View, you and Stephen are saying the 2021 35,000 lap cart replacement can be taken off.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And at the high school, laptop cart replacement for 2021 and 22 can come off?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
You're sufficiently confident that the CARES Act fund can be used.
Oh yeah, I am 100% confident. We've gone through different webinars, et cetera. So we are so confident that it got approved already. So we already know. So we've applied for the grant, and the state has approved it. So the state is the administrator of that ESSER grant or the CARES Act monies. We have applied. We told them what we wanted to do in terms of computer laptops, and they have approved it. And that just happened, Steve, what, 2 or 3 days ago? I think it was Monday or Tuesday.
I believe so. I don't know if the Goffstown ones have been fully approved. I know the new Boston
have.
ones have.
Yeah, they have
Okay.
them. Yeah,
Okay.
just this week it was approved. So again, I apologize for how fluid and how quick things change, but we also need to be candid with you to say that you can take things off this because a grant is being able to secure, these laptops.
Well, the next question Ellen might ask is what can be moved up to take its place, and that's something we can come back to on the theory that we one of our goals is to even out tax impact.
Yeah, we understand.
So that opens up some.
Oh, Jim, you're doing great at reading my mind.
I'm getting used to you, Ellen.
Okay.
Steve, do you have the district-wide stuff? Is that on your list, or is that Scott's?
As we go through this laptop, there's the computer labs, which is another one.
Yeah, I want to talk about the switches in the computer labs at the high school, if you don't mind, since we haven't touched those yet before we touch district. So the high school, there are a couple of projects that are in play. The first one is in 2025, doing the same project that we would be doing at the middle school with network switches, replacing them when they hit end of life. And then the computer lab replacement. In the current budget this year, the approved budget, we have 1 computer lab that's being replaced. The high school has 8 computer labs in the building. So we're going to just carry from year to year the plan to replace a computer lab and put them on an 8-year cycle. So you'll see that roughly the same amount with a little bit of a price adjustment as prices fluctuate over the years going forward to replace 1 lab each year.
You just don't know what you're talking about. You talk about a computer lab. We see the computers set up in the the library or the media center. Is that what you're talking about, or is there other rooms like that, or is there something different that you're?
There are 8 rooms like that. So you have the library, which has about 50 machines. You have a graphic arts lab, you have a photography lab, you have a CAD lab, you have a computer science lab. The business department has one, the physics department has one, the music department has one, The art department has one. I think there's another one that I missed in my count. But they all consist of somewhere around, all the rest of them, with the exception of the library, consists of around 20 to 25 computers where they teach academic classes.
Okay. I guess that's just the one we see, because that's where meetings are held.
Yep.
Okay. What's next?
All right, so as we go forward, I did want to point out, and hopefully Joanne won't yell at me on this one, but the server virtualization, that has been done, but I wanted you to know that in last year's CIP, we had that going forward in 21 and 22. And because of what happened with our remote learning, and Steve would know better than I, and I'll try to explain it, but one, we did not have the capacity, our systems crashed. Not only did our systems crash, which was not great, and Steve had to cobble it together to get us by, but then our backups were in failure. So we had to expedite phase 1 and 2 within about a month and a half, and cobble it together in the meantime so that we could sustain having 3,000 to 4,000 people on our system. So Steve did a great job there. So because of what we went through with COVID-19 and remote learning, we've taken all those off, those future ones off. So again, that's what it kind of adds to what Kelly was saying before. Why I think she was the one who was saying that 21 and 22 were kind of light.
Yeah.
At $55,000 in each one of those years that now came off, because we had to do it. I just want to, just for informational purposes only, we saw extra expenses in that last year of the school budget, but those extra expenses, and a lot of it was IT. And Steve, man, I think we spent almost $250,000, I think, on IT related, whether it be servers, Chromebooks, you name it, licenses. Spent a lot of money, but we also saw a decrease in transportation because we were able to negotiate a lower rate. We did not have spring sports. There were other things. We didn't have teacher substitutes for periods of time. So the monies that we had to spend, fortunately, we were able to absorb that and do transfers from other areas where we didn't, where we had the money. So it was just pure scramble mode for us in March, April, May, and June to try to make sure that we had the IT, the technology and the network to pull this thing off. So we're in better shape now with respect to that. If we have to go to a more connected model down the road, we'll be in a better position. But it was Steve and Randy just did a great job in getting us through that period of time. I want to acknowledge that. So the next one on your list is a single core key system. And this is something that Randy, when I got to the district, and Randy and I have been talking about this forever, we actually make fun of Steve Blanchette, and maybe you can show why we make fun of you, Steve.
I don't have them. They're downstairs.
All
I
right.
have a ball of keys like that to get me through the high school, because it's depending which door you have and which renovation the lock was installed on determines which key you need.
So one of the big issues is that there are so many different keys in these buildings, and Randy is an advocate, and so am I, that we're to go with a single core key system. It's a master key will get you into pretty much every building, and then you can have sub keys off of that. But it's just it is a big expense, but I can't tell you how expensive it is when you can't find the key, or you got you're searching for that. I will say that we did get a grant for external access. So these would be a prox card type of electronic key strike system, which we're going to be doing. And I wanted just to let you know, so that will alleviate some. There's still a key and a lock there, but it gives us greater access, and it's a little bit easier for our staff and for those who do need to access the buildings remotely. And that project we're going to be doing this fall, but only at all of our schools, right? But the high school, right, Steve? Or only certain doors at the high school, at most of our other buildings?
So the project is going forward. We were awarded a state infrastructure grant for just shy of, I want to say 200,000.
Right.
to pay for the bulk of the work. It's paying for the prox card control at Glen Lake, Maple, Bartlett, and Mountain View is the primary buildings that are getting it. And then depending on how the project goes there and what surprises we have or don't have will dictate how much we can invest into the high school. But the grant was not enough to cover all the buildings. So we started with those 4 with the intention of doing what we could at the high school at the end.
So I just wanted to let you know, because it does relate to the key system. And again, it's another grant that we were able to secure through public school infrastructure grant. Gary Geralman and Steve and Randy were very instrumental in securing that $200,000 grant. Our seal coating line striping, this is another one that we need to kind of do every 3-4 years. And Randy, we've got that pegged in there for 2022.
Yes, we do.
And
2022, yes.
Randy, if you want to talk about the next one, the heavy duty truck with lift gate and plow.
Yes, is this one we have slated in here for 2025. The oldest truck that we have now, we have done some repairs to, and talking with the mechanic that does our repairs, we just actually, the bed that was on that truck was in disrepair, so we actually took the bed off and put a flatbed on it. And he was saying by putting the flatbed on it, we'll get another 5 years out of that vehicle. So that takes us to 2025. What the district we don't have that we are in need of is a truck with a lift gate, because there's a number of pieces of equipment that we move from building to building that we actually, when we move it, we get a group of guys, we come and we lift it up and we put it into the back of a pickup truck, and then we all go to where it's going and we lift it down off of the truck to do it as safe as we can. It's from the man lift that we have to auto scrubbers to pressure washers. It's just that we are in need of a truck with a lift gate, and in this slating for this year, when we're anticipating a truck to come out of service, is having another truck with a plow to replace it. So that's what this is particularly about.
But you still show that as 2025.
Yeah.
Yes, because we're anticipating that the truck that we just did the repairs on will get another 5 years out of it.
And your backs will hold out that long too?
Well, we never do anything solo for sure. When we do things, it's always by groups to go into to make things done, to make sure that we're doing things as safely as we can. And then when we need to, when we have a great relationship with the town and the Parks and Recs folks, that if it's something that we just, we can't move, they come down with a trailer, and then we all collectively get it on a trailer and get things to where they need to go. So it's great to have that kind of relationship with the other municipalities and with the town to help us out, and we try to help them out. There were years where they didn't have a tractor for their their coring, aeration of fields, and they used a tractor that we had at the high school, and they just did service on it for us. So it was kind of a swapping things off back and forth. So again, very proud of the relationship that we have with our Parks and Rec and our DPW group to help us as we need help back and forth.
Okay, thank you.
So the next one, Jim, is which is line, I think, number 310, which is Norman Road. You'll recall that the school district put a warrant article to purchase that piece of property, which extends beyond past the high school. And the plan is that in 2026, that we would prepare some site engineering for future development, as Ellen is the chair of our space needs or our building type committee. Again, once I mention again that it is on hiatus, but that committee is looking at all of our buildings and assessing, what our future needs are. And the Norman Road property is a substantial parcel because it abuts the high school. Obviously, it has some benefit there for expansion purposes. And that group that Ellen chairs, again, it might not be this year, but we're working hard on that to determine what are some of our possibilities. And in terms of a new school. So that site can accommodate a new elementary school. It could accommodate a new middle school. So we just wanted to, let you know that, but we need to do site engineering to tell us what's the best layout. And Jeff O'Brien is also on that committee as well. So we want to thank Jeff. But we're several years. Well, I wouldn't say several. We're 4 or 5 years away, I think, on that. And I think again, in light of the current climate right now, that's a reasonable expectation to put that out as far as we can in 2026. Custodial cleaning equipment. Randy could probably also speak to this, but we have these scrubbers, auto scrubbers. So we, I think Randy's folks do a fine job in terms of keeping our facilities and our floors clean, but the machines that we have do a lot of that work. Before it was, right, just a lot of old-fashioned mops,
and
right?
still,
Yeah.
And a lot of the equipment that we have does have age on it. If you recall, a few years back, we were able to buy some pieces of equipment to help with efficiencies and workloads in a number of the buildings, but we didn't get near what really the district needs to help support the cleaning program that we have in each of the buildings. And $30,000 may sound like a lot of money for cleaning equipment for each of the years tagged out from 2022 through 2025. But I will share with you that $30,000 doesn't buy a whole lot of equipment. It would just be to replace aging equipment that we have. It's literally just a couple of auto scrubbers or floor buffers, or it's a touchless cleaning machine. It's not a whole lot of that stuff, but it's just it keeps our cleaning materials that we use to maintain our buildings, to stay up to date with the current technology and efficiencies with our custodians to help maintain our buildings. So I just look at this as a must, a must need to do to help our folks to do the job that they do in the buildings.
And Ellen, Kelly, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Randy, I was just wondering if you anticipate any of the CARES money to be used towards cleaning supplies. Something of this
Yes.
nature.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, for the equipment, I will say that the equipment that we've purchased, Kelly, is very specialized equipment that helps to combat the virus that everybody is combating right now, to electrostatic, equipment to help disinfect rooms. And at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, it's just it is more equipment that we have to help maintain our spaces and keep them disinfected. But a lot of that money is going into those supplies to help us to keep our spaces disinfected and as safe as we can with our staff and students as they return back to the building.
So could I jump in just for one quick second, Ellen, if that's okay? So one of the other funding sources that we have, Kelly, is there's FEMA grants that have been given out, and Derek Horn, who's our town administrator, and I know Danielle has been on these calls as well, is that we can apply for a FEMA grant for personal protective equipment and for sanitizing type equipment. So our first route is that we're going to apply for FEMA grants. It's a 90% reimbursement on things that Randy buys in terms of we have what electrostatic sprayers? Randy, what do you get? Right?
So it's electrostatic sprayers. We have
right.
And it's cordless equipment, so it just allows quick and easy movement and a fast turnaround time for spaces when folks leave to go in, treat the space, 4 minutes later, it's ready for use again.
Right, so it's a really quick way of doing that. But so that's the first route that we're going to go. And then if we have anything that doesn't get covered by FEMA, then we can use some of that CARES Act money. But the FEMA grant for us, and I don't know, I haven't talked to Derek or Danielle about it, but there's what's called an easy application, and it's anything under $130,000. It's a relatively quick process. But anything over $130,000, you have to kind of give up your firstborn child for. So it's like, I think we're going to try to keep it under 130,000. And the other thing too is, again, just to highlight, the partnership that we have with the town is just incredible. And it's not just town hall, parks and rec, DP, you name it. And we talk about, for those on CIP who don't know, we talk daily, departments talk daily, school talks daily, and those electrostatic sprayers, we've talked to DPW or PD or fire. If you need to use them for your, we'll share whatever we have when we're not using it, and vice versa. And that kind of segues us to the next one, Jim, which is the salt shed and the replacement.
Ellen had a question before you do that.
Okay.
Ellen?
Okay, two things. Just please remember for our committee and the public, we have 5 schools, not 1 or 2 little ones, but 5, and 2 of them are pretty big with 1,000 or more kids in them every day. Thank you, Kelly, for your question. I thought that was very informative. Thank you. And I'm going to leave it there because my next big one is at the end.
Okay. Turn the microphone back to Scott then.
All right. Yeah, so the next 2 items, the salt shed and the replace the current tractor. You know, our mindset right now is that DPW, in terms of the roads that they have to do, the parking lots, and then in the Parks and Rec in terms of the mowing, et cetera, you know, we're trying to look at alternative ways in which school staff could potentially help them out to alleviate some work. One of those, so the salt shed and the tractor would allow us to try to do some more sanding of the parking lots by ourselves, so that if they're busy, we can kind of help them out. And the same thing with the tractor. If we have a bit bigger size tractor with a different, I call it a box plow type of an attachment, we can do some of the work that DPW does for us currently to buy them some more time. Most of these plow routes are like 2 to 3 hour plow routes. And then depending upon the situation, you know, it can be very taxing. A lot of these plow drivers, they could be on the road for like 20 straight hours, depending upon a storm. It just gives a little bit more flexibility so that we can have school staff taking care of the parking lots, potentially, or at least sanding. If it's we don't have to call out a DPW crew to do a particular area if we have the ability to sand or salt. Randy, does that sound fair?
Kelly, you want to ask a question first, and then I'll chime in.
Oh, sure. My question about the truck in general, would you be working in conjunction with DPW for like state bid pricing and maintenance and things like that, or?
Any vehicles we specifically go to wherever the state bid has been awarded, and that's where we go to get our equipment.
Okay, great. And then same
Yeah.
question with the salt. I'm assuming you'd work with DPW to.
Right now we
distribution.
get our salt directly from them, and then they bill us for what we use. And part of the salt shed of the issue that we run into is, as long as there's a snowstorm or a storm, it works out great because they're there. But when there is not a storm, it doesn't work out quite so great, for the fact that our folks come in, we're in at 5 in the morning because of the melt that's happening in the late afternoon. And we come in the morning, a lot of the roadways and at Glen Lake, they're frozen and their folks aren't in yet. So having a salt shed that holds, you know, 8 or 9 yards of salt and sand that we can go into in the morning instead of trying to get it the night before and then finding us, you know, clearing a spot within the building to put the truck because we don't want the sand to freeze, that if we had a salt shed that we would have a door on that we could lift up and then load the trucks and send them out in the morning to get ready, like Mountain View Middle School, the roadway going up to the building. It just, you know, on the storms, you know, they would be sanding at 5 in the morning, and by the time 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock when the buses are rolling in, it's refreezing again, and trying to get them back in time or pull them off their route was a logistical nightmare. So we got a sander to put in the back of a truck, and we would go to the town and get the salt and then salt these areas to help, you know, to give some relief to them and trying to get them back to the building. But again, for us, the ability to do the salting first thing in the morning when our folks would come in at 5:30 in the morning to get the roadways and parking lots ready for the teachers and the students to show up, and getting them before those folks got into the parking lots, because it is very hard to, as you can imagine, to do this when you have to wait to get the salt to sand around vehicles, so that people have a safe surface to walk on or as safe as possible to walk on as they're going in and out of the buildings.
Okay. I guess, Kelly, your point is we don't want to duplicate facilities or equipment that can be shared.
Right.
You're making a reason why you need it. Okay.
And then we would need a little bigger tractor. It's kind of a small tractor to be able to handle the load. When you put that kind of weight in the front of a bucket, you know, and you do have counterweights on it, but it's a smaller tractor and it would take an enormous amount of counterweight. So you weren't standing the tractor up on its front wheels as you were trying to load it, to load a truck with salt.
Okay. Okay, what's left?
So the rest will be Steve, in terms of district level, in terms of next generation Wi-Fi, Steve.
Yep. So our current wireless hardware for all of the schools reaches end of life in November of 2024. So that's the end of support date on our equipment. So we're looking at 2025 to go through and replace, to start replacing our wireless equipment. We figured we could replace half of it one year and then half of it the following year. I don't expect it to die the year that it hits end of life, but if anything fails at that point, I can't get replacement parts and I can't get technical support. So that's kind of the plan there, is we're going to replace it right when it hits the end of its life cycle. The elementary schools for core switches, same project we have at the high school. Just in order to meet the CIP threshold, we grouped together Bartlett, Maple, and Glen Lake. Security cameras, which is the next one on there. We got a state infrastructure grant a few years ago to replace some of our security cameras. And Randy and Scott can attest to, depending on which building and which part of the building you're looking at, some of the cameras you can see clear what you're looking at, and others of them are a fuzzy picture and you're trying to make out the shadow to see, is that a person, is that a shadow, what is it? So the goal is, starting in 2023, 2024, we're going to go through and try to replace those rest of the analog cameras. Some of those cameras date back to the high school renovation. That's when they were put in. So we're working through to try to replace the oldest of them, some in 2022, some in 2023, to make them all be able to have a clear image so we can identify what they are. That was one of the items that was identified as a weakness with the
accrediting agency, right?
the safety inspection,
Okay.
the one that Don was doing. Was that FBI or Homeland Security, Randy?
Homeland Security
Homeland Security.
called it out, yes.
Would that be something you would potentially consider moving up?
We could.
If we come back to that conversation, so.
Yeah, those are tricky, in the sense that these are ones that you sometimes tend to get a grant on. So it's like if you go early on it, then you get a grant, and then so it's a tough one. I think what we've experienced is that I think especially Stephen and Randy, they kind of have a feel for what we might be able to secure a state or federal grant on, and then we do kind of put it out and we put it in the middle, shall we say, Kelly, thinking that we might be able to secure a grant. But that's my fear, would be that if we did move it up to, say, next year, that, what happens if you're grant eligible in 2 years and then all of a sudden we did it already. But because right, if I'm not mistaken, Steve, that the state has seemed to be very generous on security cameras. And
yep, it is also the COPS grant from the Department of Justice. Security cameras is covered. It's just that one we have to partner with the town to do in order to qualify. That was one that
I'm all for grants. That's why I asked.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
And so what's nice too is as Scott was talking about in the field, is we have, I know, like with Steve and myself and Scott, with the organizations that we belong to, and, with facilities directors or business administrators, and we talk with the people from state, they kind of give us a heads up when this stuff is coming up, so we can start planning for it and getting ready for it. So when they say, here it is, we kind of already have the research done and the pricing done, so we can move on it, to be one of the first ones to act on it, to try to make sure that we get the funding. So they do a pretty good job at letting us know when these things that look like they could be coming up.
Great. Thank you.
Remember, the CIP is a planning tool, but neither the selectmen or the school board are bound by it, in the sense that if something needs to be moved forward and it can be put within an appropriation, you can spend money. This is a planning tool. It's not a box that we put you into, but it helps us and the selectmen and the school board and the budget committee create a budget. So, those opportunities to move sooner happen. This is not precluding you from doing that, but it's nice to have a plan on how to spend the money in the matrix over time, like we're creating. Okay, what else, Scott?
So the next thing is we're looking to replace our support staff devices. Currently, they are also pretty much near end of life. When I say support staff, these are our administrative assistants, our building secretaries. We have numerous across all buildings, and we're looking to do that next year. Printers are another issue for us, and again, more so at Mountain View and Maple Avenue. That's where our biggest needs are. And I say that because we have some printers in these buildings that, Steve, is it fair to say 20 years old?
I have printers in the building that were manufactured in 96
All right. So
that are
yeah,
older than my techs who are servicing them.
yeah. So that one, we're looking at some different solutions with regard to some of these printer replacements, but we did, this is more of an immediate need for us. So that's why you're going to see it in 2021. And then second to last is data backup and
Yep.
retention for our laptops. Steve, you can speak to that one.
Yep. So all of our teaching staff, we issue laptops to, but the biggest challenge is we don't have an effective way to back them up. So if a kid takes a teacher's laptop and knocks it off a desk, all the data on that laptop is lost. We have a couple of backup arrays that were donated by the state. We got them from the court system when they got rid of them in 2016 when they hit end of life that we're using for some backup pieces. But that's insufficient storage to try to back up our teacher laptops. So the goal here is to have a reliable backup method for all of our professional staff and administrators so that their data on their laptop is backed up somewhere in the event of a failure. We're not scrambling trying to get things back. We're sending it out to a data recovery company, which I hate to say it, sending a hard drive out to a data recovery company, you can spend $2,000 to $3,000 minimum to get them to look at it to see if they can recover it.
Yeah, so I don't see Jeff's face on here, and I know Jeff is an IT guy. Our folks do back up things to the cloud or to our, right? Is that fair enough to say? So it's not like, but in terms of having a more formal where, it's done periodically at noon, as long as you're connected, et cetera, that's what you're talking about. But folks are encouraged to either back up to an external device or back up, elsewhere.
They're encouraged to back up, but the way to put it in context is my server, I have 20 gigabytes of storage per teacher to back up 250 gigabytes worth of data.
Right.
So they have to pick and choose what they back up because there just isn't enough space to do that. And this is to address that so that we can make sure that we have all of their data backed up, not just the few pieces that fit based on what we had for storage.
Well, as I said last time, having dropped my computer, I can appreciate the need. Okay, what else, Scott?
All right, the last but not least, and we're going to call line number 320 the Ellen Vermakowitz line. So this is Ellen's idea. I don't want to steal her
Oh,
thunder.
no, wait a minute. I didn't say 200,000.
I know you didn't, and that's why.
You're talking
I
about the
I know. And in fairness, Ellen and I go back like 20 years, but so the thought process here and Ellen's notion is that, yeah, the notion here is that in the past we just put $200,000. The voters approved that. What we're thinking is that our high school bond, the last year of the high school bond, is going to be the year 2022, and when that happens, we're going to see an overall net impact of about $400,000, which would really be, what I'm trying to say is we pay right now principal and interest about a little more than $600,000, but we also get state building aid of around $200,000. So the net is about $400,000. So starting in 2023, the thought process is that the school board was considering putting $400,000 so that there would be really level in terms of tax impact type of thing, and then that would then help to deal with some of these issues as we go forward 2023, 2024, when we have larger items like roof replacements and we'll have those funds there. So that was Ellen's, you want to speak to it, Ellen?
Well, yeah, line 320, I think, based on its notes, is our capital reserve fund for capital replacement items. Even though the line said facilities, but it says 2019 special article to establish.
Yeah,
a fund.
it's the capital reserve fund for our school facilities that has been in place for the last couple of years.
So that's our capital replacement items. I was thinking that, and asking the CIP group their opinion, I'm not sure if this belongs in CIP or on the matrix, but with the bond lapsing and that money's then we're not paying out, what CIP would think of long-term planning if the school district created a second capital reserve fund to address school space needs, and thus not having asking for more than currently people are paying in taxes for the bond, but accumulating it over years so that when we do something, and we will have to do something with school space needs, we have the funds, some funds there that can help mitigate that expense, both in the planning, the construction, and then continuing down possibly for payment of a bond. So I know I'd like to get your feedback as to that idea, and if CIP should be on here or not.
Well,
If it's-
we have time for you to come back, you being the school board, Scott and Randy and Steve, and make that proposal. I don't think we as a committee independently are going to do that. We're taking the proposals that are brought to us and reviewing them. So if that's something you wish to propose in your school board hat, bring it back to us.
So it is something that would go through on the CIP matrix?
Yeah, I think any establishment of a CRF, Ellen, in my opinion, whether it be additional funding for the existing one or a new one would be a CIP. I think it's a CIP item. Yeah. And Danielle's shaking her
I'm
head.
not sure I've seen it on the town side for annual.
You have, yep,
Oh,
it's
okay.
in there for all of the capital reserve funds, which include the land acquisition, the fire apparatus deposits, those Grassmere deposits, they're all on the matrix as well.
So we should have each year our capital reserve, our capital replacement CRF should have 200,000 each year on it.
Well,
Is that what I'm understanding?
Then we'll consider it.
Yeah. So Ellen, I think we can chat offline,
Okay.
but I would think that would be in your prerogative as a school board rep to request that the CIP were to add that, as well as your suggestion regarding the other one.
Okay, so let's do that. Okay, we'll talk
Okay.
further and bring it back to you.
Okay, Scott, are you done?
Yes, we are.
Okay, I'm looking at the clock, committee. I'm hungry. Whatever. We've talked about moving items around. I think I'd like to let you, Scott, take a look at that. And if you want to make a recommendation, again, we're sort of a reactive committee, not a planning committee. We're inviting you to think about that for several reasons. One, to even out tax burden, recognizing some of these expenses may change strategically if you change the school plan, but also in light of what you pointed out, that you've gotten funds that were not expected to replace some of them, leaving some holes in the budget for you. Let you come back with something. Kelly?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I agree. I think that would be great if we could make those few adjustments. We talked about moving things into 2021. Additionally, I'd just like to request, I was reading the matrix on my phone, so I apologize if it's in there, but if we could also earmark areas where there's potential grant funding, I would really appreciate that. Maybe not in the full notes, but I just thought that was great to hear that you guys are actively looking for that stuff, knowing it's a potential, so we can kind of, fully keep that in mind. If that's possible, Scott, don't worry if it's.
Yeah, I'm looking to see. I think it is in the memo lines. I think
Okay,
it
might
might
be,
be.
right, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's in actuality. I think it's a really good idea for future reference in the sense that there are certain things that the school district is more likely to get a grant on than others. And I say that, things that are security related, in some cases, technology related. We do comment on the E-rate part, but and that we pretty much know is going to be that 40% reimbursement. It's kind of a known thing. But what you're looking at is like an asterisk or something that says, hey, this is something that we might be able to get a grant on. And I think that will be helpful to you.
It definitely would. And overall, I'd just like to say, I really appreciate all the effort you guys put into so thoughtfully planning this out. I know last year on the budget committee, me specifically really pushed you all to get this stuff on a CIP matrix. And I think this gives such a better full picture for all of our buildings of things that are coming up in the next, you went so far out that it's really great to see the big picture of the planning process. So I just want to say I appreciate the hard work on all this. And I think this is a much more better perspective view for us than it was last year. So thank you.
Really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
And if I could just chime in for a second on this is, if you're not aware that the school district hired a new maintenance person to replace the gentleman that passed away about half a year back. And the gentleman we brought on board, this is the HVAC field is an area that he's worked in for the last 25 years. And working with, and his name is John Rice, and working with John, I've asked that he go and kind of do a state of our equipment. So as we look at this package for next year, you're going to see a lot of our equipment in these lines, which they weren't now. That was fully our intention to get them into this program, but when we lost our maintenance person, he kind of took that information with him. He didn't write it down. So coming next year, this CIP matrix will look much different. And I just want to let you know that you'll actually see a lot of HVAC equipment and anticipated years and costs for that as well. So that this is going to grow as it's a living document that we work with from year to year. So next year you will see it will probably be a little bit bigger than it is right now. So I just wanted to let you know that we are always continuing to look to build on this to get a bigger picture of the district's needs.
Yeah, the mechanicals piece is for large buildings, folks, is very expensive, and I think that's the one more thing that we need to add to this are mechanicals to the CIP, and we're going to do that next year.
Okay. One of the points we've been trying to make last year and this year is that this is a planning document, a flexible document. It evolves over time as we learn more and you learn more. So I welcome you, invite you to do that. It's not intended to be a rigid document.
Jim, it's so interesting though, and I think Kelly highlighted it, is that, a year or two ago, the budget committee challenged us to do this, and a couple of years ago, and we did. And I think what it really did was it supported the notion of how important, capital reserve funds are. And I know that that's an important piece. In order to have a capital reserve fund, you have to have a CIP. And I think it all boils down to the planning. And this has forced the school district to put a lot of things into this matrix, but it's also then said, hey, how are you going to pay for it? And capital reserve funds are a way and to pay for some of these things to try to spread it out, which is I know what your goal is. So I'm so glad that happened. It's been really very beneficial to us.
Okay. Anything else? Are we done your presentation, Scott, with that?
Yes, we are finished.
Okay. Anything else, members of the committee, you want to bring up? I'm not seeing any. Danielle, I'm going to ask you to stay on for a few minutes so we can try to figure out why I'm not getting sound, because I had it earlier. And, but we'll let everybody else leave, if that's okay. Danielle, you have something to say now.
Just a couple of administrative points. So based on all the discussion tonight, I think it makes sense that, I know Scott and Ellen are going to talk offline, but I'm going to be part of that conversation as well so that we can get the matrix here adjusted with any changes or notes they want to add. And probably plan to bring that forward at one of the deliberative sessions that's coming up. So the next meeting is July 30th. And you'll have a presentation by DPW and the Sewer Commission. And then the following one, August 6th, that would be the first opportunity for a deliberative session. So perhaps the school would be available to return with some updates at that point. So I can talk with Scott and Ellen to see what tweaks we want to make. There's a couple things that I'd like to, the security cameras I didn't realize could combine with ours. The town has a security camera project planned in 21. So perhaps we can partner with this school and see if we can make that a combined project. So there's some additional items that we'll look to partner on potentially.
Okay,
And
well,
Danielle,
well,
my request would be, like really soon to do this, like early next week. I say that because, we're doing our school reopening planning. And, it is, all encompassing in terms of our time, and, August 6th, that's gonna be right in the middle of that. So for me, selfishly, I need to do this like Monday, early next week. Yeah.
Monday morning.
Available
Yeah.
anytime.
Yeah.
we'll let you, Danielle, figure out when to bring it forward, and if we need to squeeze it in earlier, we can at next meeting. I just wanted you to let Megan know that the fire department made an offer to go up in the ladder truck, and the police were going to set off, I think, smoke bombs for us. Ask Megan what she can offer us for rides in her equipment before she comes in. Anything else for the meeting? Seeing none, Jeff, we made it to motion to adjourn. Ellie, will you second it? I'll take a show of hands so we don't have to do a roll call. Danielle, will you hang on for a minute? Okay, thank you, everybody, for
Take care.
a long day.
Stephen, did you get my email?
Yes, you're all set.
Okay.
Oh, so it's going to be
Thank
forwarded?
you.
All right,
Take care.
Yeah, Ellen, it's already.
Appreciate you all. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye, all. How do I get out?
Hold on, Gail, 1 second.
Okay,
Hang
wait,
with us, Gail, for a second.
Okay.
I can't make my sound work.
Okay, Jim,
Can I leave the meeting?
Yeah, you get out of here, go.
Yeah, you did good.
who made the motion to adjourn?
Jeff did.
Jeff did. Okay, thank you. And just remember that I won't be there at the meeting at the end of the month. I'll be on
Okay.
vacation.
The 30th.
After,
Yeah.
we'll have to note taking. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I will still do the minutes.
Good, okay.
Okay, thank you. Good night.
Yeah, bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, Danielle, let me try this.
Just wanted to make sure we're all set here with GTV.
If I hang up my phone,
Okay.
I won't hear you.
It didn't hang up. There we go. There we go.
Jim, if you'd like to call in directly, we can talk on the phone.
Well,
If you
just call your
I
number?
can give you a
Okay.
different number.
Okay, wait a minute, let me write it down.